I heard the story of a 7-year-old that had choked to death. My daughter was 7 at the time, and I found out that, unfortunately, protocols don't always work. And so I set out on a mission, this was about 11 years ago, to make something super simple that could save my little girl. When I came up with it, I felt obligated to bring it to others.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jason Perez.
And I'm Wesley Long.
And we're bringing you a fresh new take on disaster preparedness.
Welcome to Disaster Class. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Disaster Class. I am Wesley Long.
And I'm Jason Perez.
All right. All right, students, that means class is now in session, and this is going to be a good one. So, Jason, what we have here for our listeners and viewers today is another amazing product / brand that fits perfectly in line with Instinct Ready's Preparedness Starts at Home initiative and our mission to build capable citizens. Now, Jason, what exactly is a capable citizen?
Yeah, so a capable citizen is someone that has been educated, prepared, and equipped not to just survive, but to thrive. And, that could be in an on-the-go situation where you need to survive off the grid for 72 hours using a go bag, or survive for 5 to 7 days in sheltering in place, or in the case of an acute, emergency where they have to be the help until help arrives.
Yeah. So acute emergency, huh? Well, today we have with us Arthur Lee, the inventor of the LifeVac rescue device. Now, Arthur, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for your time.
Oh man, what you guys do and having me on is just awesome. I'm honored to be here, and you're saving lives with your message and your jobs. So I appreciate it. It's great.
No, that's fantastic, Arthur. Thank you. And you have quite an accomplished history. You've done some things. Could you just tell us about yourself? What's your background? Maybe some of the businesses that you've started, some of the things you've been successful with.
Well, when I was 17, I started driving a truck in high school, and my first career, 18 years of it, was myself and a partner. I built up an air freight company. When I was in my 40s, mid 40s, I sold it, and my goal was to play golf and do carpentry and woodwork. I heard the story of a 7-year-old that had choked to death. My daughter was 7 at the time, and I found out that, unfortunately, protocols don't always work. One child dies every 5 days, 5,000 people a year, the fourth leading cause of accidental death. And honestly, I was scared. I was scared that I had my beautiful little girl, and if it didn't work, she was going to die right in my arms. And I thought, as her father, it's my obligation to figure out a way to save her. Right? It's not uncommon. I'm not, a paranoid person, but if it's a leading cause of accidental death, and I need to address it. And I've been trained, but, in the case of the child in question, it didn't work, and it's nothing against the trainer. It's just, if you don't have enough air, it just doesn't work, no matter how well you do it. And so I set out on a mission, this was about 11 years ago, to make something super simple that could save my little girl. When I came up with it, I felt obligated to bring it to others. I just felt how horrible I would feel if I heard of a child that choked to death and I had my little plunger just for me.
Right.
So it was really not something I necessarily wanted to do, because I knew it would be ridiculously hard to start a medical product in your garage and bring it to fruition. But the obligation was there, so I did it. And LifeVac has now saved over 600 lives, close to 400 children all over the world. And we're actually seeing a reduction in the statistics for choking.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
Wow. That's fantastic.
Yeah, so you've given us the why. and what an amazing, just reason. We love the why you created it. Can you give us a little bit? And I find this completely fascinating too, because I'm also I'm a basic life and supports instructor, and so I teach these commonly. The abdominal thrust, Heimlich Maneuver. I'm used to teaching these, but like you said, it takes a lot of skill to know what to do and how to do it. Yeah. And if it's not something you're practicing all the time, you're not going to be necessarily always be able to do it right. So can you explain just a little bit more about what your product is and how it works?
Yeah, when the good thing about the internet and all this technology, that rotting a lot of brains, but it also has the ability for us to get data and information quickly. I found two studies early on. It's called the Langhill study and the Goldner study. Basically, what they both did was measure the force generated by abdominal thrusts and back blows. So they had a paramedic trained do it, and in 2 out of 12 times, it was zero. And that's why I said, "Oh my God, I was trained, and you're right, and I beg everyone to get trained." But it's not the trainer's fault. You can do it perfect and still get zero force. And that's when I realized that it wasn't doing it better or learning a different technique. I needed something else.
Right.
Now, at that point, I went to Home Depot and got a sink plunger, right? Because I had understood what force was needed. It's not a lot. It's about 70 millimeters of mercury, should clear it every time. So I found this little plunger, and if you hear that pop, that's about 300 millimeters of mercury. And the theory was something that's super simple, right? Because I've had parents that never saw it, never touched it, and they saved the life because you got a plus or minus factor of 230 millimeters of mercury, so you could even goop it up; it's still going to work.
Yeah. Right.
The theory was kind of the premise of your show: simplicity for everyone, right? We have had, I think we're in the 50 Good Samaritans, meaning they had a LifeVac in their baby bag or on the back of their wheelchair, and they went and saved someone else, And
capable
your
citizens.
show is about that, right? We all can help each other.
Right.
And a little education, a little preparedness, and we could save a lot of lives. But the simplicity is the key. It's got a vent system. So when you push it down, the air comes out the side. So it won't push it further in. This ball valve is, unlike the business community, I made it last forever. You only got to buy it once.
Right.
You push it, the air goes out the side, and that pop sucks it out. And it's really that simple. The message is place, push, pull. And we're 650 lives saved now. 389 kids. And
amazing.
Do you guys see a picture of the Hall of Saves?
The Hall of Saves, I saw it on your website.
Yeah, that's my arena. That's my motivation. That's my visual representation of what 600 plus families that are still together and beautiful kids that are still here. And
now, Arthur, if you don't mind, because I've seen it on the website, but could we perhaps describe what that Hall of Saves is? Maybe for our listeners that are just listeners and they're not viewers, can you explain what it is and how that works and how you collect that? Because it is a beautiful component. If you haven't seen it, it's absolutely amazing. And it's funny because if you look early on your website, I remember seeing I went through your Instagram too. I saw some of the very first pictures, and it was a very small area. And now how it's expanded because of the amount of saves. So maybe we can walk through the audience and tell them exactly what it is.
Man, you just gave me chills because I love the appreciation for that.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, I remember when it was 4.
Yeah.
I remember the first save. And what the Hall of Saves is we take a picture of the person saved with the number of saves, and we put them on the wall. And like I said, our first Hall of Saves had 4 and then 10 and then 12. It now has 650 pictures.
Framed pictures of
Framed
the individual whose life has been saved by their device.
We got currently it's about 60 feet long and 8 high in rows. So when you look at it, you can visually understand what the difference 650 lives makes, you know?
Hmm.
And a lot of times parents or first responders will send a picture, you know? So each story has its own picture. You can see a little child, you can see a grandparent, you can see a husband and wife. Um, and you visually understand the impact that we're having.
Yeah.
Like, I guarantee you guys, your show has saved lives, and you know you don't know, but that's okay.
Right.
And I'm sure we saved a lot of lives we don't know either.
Mhm.
But it is my inspiration.
Yeah.
And you know, you guys ever down here, you got to come see it.
We
And
talked about that with
And you're not
one of your sisters. We are not super far from here. We are thinking about doing a road trip. We would love to come down. I would love to see
dude,
the
you
Hall
got
of
it.
Saves in person, because it is something that stood out to me when I was looking through your website and doing research on it. And what I also love about your website is the way it's set up to intake that information. For individuals who have made a purchase, you can go to the website and you can see, hey, we had a situation where we used it, and you could submit that information so that you can get that picture to
Right.
the Hall of Saves. So I love that that is front and foremost with your organization, with your brand, how important that is to you guys. I love that.
We also give you, you know, my dad was an engineer, worked on the putting a man on the moon.
Mm.
And he instilled in me kind of the integrity and reliability of a product. You know, he was in charge of reliability, so that meant it couldn't fail because you're on the moon. You can't
Yeah.
get a replacement
There's a
part.
Home Depot. Yeah.
So, yeah, so he was very meticulous about that, and his integrity was on the line to make sure that it would work and there was backup. So, LifeVac was made to not fail, which took a lot of effort because this vent system, if I put a valve, it'd be cheaper and easier, but you could block it, right? And over time, any flap valve will deteriorate.
Yep.
And then you got to buy a new one every 2 years. It expires.
Yep.
So I didn't like any of that. So I made it so the ball valve will last forever. It can't fail. You can't push the object in because you can't block this whole grate.
Mm.
See that whole grate?
Yeah.
Yep.
So there's no way to block it. Lasts forever, and if you use it, we give you a free one. Replace it free, and it comes with a child mask and adult mask.
Mm.
So I covered every aspect that is bad business and good for your soul.
Yep.
You know, and that when you said you appreciate that about the site, and we make it right here in America, in New York, and my dad instilled me to do it right, and.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to resell one every 2 years because it expired. And you use it, man. I'm more than happy to give you another one.
Yeah.
Just tell us the story and keep us going.
I love it.
What a beautiful mission, and wow,
Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, I think just highlighting a couple of things that you talked about, just the simplicity aspect. Like I said, I teach these common methods. And the one problem I have with like abdominal thrusts and things like that, not just to mention the problems that you've identified, but there's also you can't practice this skill. Even now with the current BLS curriculums, the basic life support, the students don't actually practice it because there's no effective way to practice abdominal thrusts. Either you're going to hurt someone trying to practice.
Right.
They've created little products to help try to simulate it. It doesn't work.
It's not the same.
It's not the same. So what I like about this too, and I'm sure is it possible to is there ways you can practice with the LifeVac device?
Yeah. Well, we got this guy here. Like this is the dummy you kind of were talking about.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Right. So he's got an obstruction. Let's see if I can get this a little better. So you can practice on a table, right?
Yeah.
Just to feel the suction, but that just pulled it out.
Wow.
Right. So he's choking. It's simple as place, C-clamp, push, pull, and it comes right out.
Amazing.
Now, the other thing that you hit on, and I love talking to first responders, one, because I appreciate you guys as heroes, but two, the knowledge, right? So, like you mentioned, that you can't practice it. There are sadly a big population that can't be done. You're in a wheelchair that has a computer and a drive. You're pregnant. You're you're big, And the other thing that as I did this last decade, is a lot of people that have medical conditions that create frailty in their bodies. You Heimlich them or give them CPR, they collapse like a potato chip bag and they die.
Yeah.
They cannot be rescued with those two techniques. The other thing is, and you'll know from your EMT, it's not invasive. There's no tube, right? Because I saw them, right? You'd go online 10 years ago and buy a suction device with a tube. But I'm like, I'm going to be a freaking out parent. I'm not going to try and stick a tube in my daughter and suck the thing out. Yeah. I mean, that in most states, that's paramedic. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So I said, I need something BLS. I need something non-invasive. Right?
Right.
Holy cow, I saved my kid.
Yep.
So it was a combination of kind of what your show is about, taking a procedure that is ALS and creating a non-invasive, simple, safe BLS method to save a life and keep it inexpensive so that you can have them everywhere, you know? It's not cost prohibitive.
Right.
And the cool thing is, over the last 10 years, there have been 6 peer-reviewed studies. LifeVac has more medical credentials than almost anything out there. It's been out a long time now. So it has studies on force, studies on cadavers, study on simulators, and 6 on actual lives saved. Because we can collect data, we turn it over to the MHRA, and it is able to be used in studies. So the guess from my garage turned out to be right.
Beautiful.
Amazing.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, because like techniques like the abdominal thrust, Heimlich Maneuver, it's not without risk.
Oh, yeah.
And when I teach my classes, I'm like, listen, if you ever have to do it on someone, they should really go to the hospital because you can cause internal injuries just by, doing that procedure. So it's not without.
I mean, we say it in EMS and it's horrible. Like even with CPR, right? If you're not cracking ribs, you're not doing it right.
Right.
Like we say that all the time. Like the cost of CPR, and the goal is to save someone's life. Right. Obviously, we got to get the blood flow. We got to get the oxygenated blood back to where it needs to be. So at the cost of breaking ribs, it's worth it.
But sometimes the benefit outweighs the risk. But this, you have, I think, probably a much higher likelihood of actually getting that obstruction out with minimal, risk.
Minimal risk. It's
beautiful. Yeah, it can't hurt you. It's only, it's a short burst, 300 millimeters, 160 milliliters of air. You cough and sneeze harder, so the body does it all the time. So it can't hurt you. But you made a good point. Obviously, break a rib, save a life, deal, right?
Right, 100%.
But the problem is that sometimes you can't do it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And the biggest battle that I feel I have to continue to fight is our children with special needs, whether they're in a school system or if they're in their own facility of special needs. If you look at the choking poster, there's no representation on how to save a child in a wheelchair. And the problem is because what there is won't work anymore. The chair's got too big. You can't get your arms around them.
Right.
So there's really nothing. And that drives me absolutely crazy. And I feel that, the word's getting out thanks to guys like you and other media. So we're saving lives every day. But that's my last battle. That's got to be won. We got to be there. They deserve an equal chance to be rescued. That's what the bill's about. And that's when I'm able to say, hey, man, I did the right thing and I persevered to get it done.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's absolutely beautiful. So, and just to circle back, we talked about this a little bit. The kind of question we have is, what issues do you see with just waiting for the ambulance to show up, right? That's the other thing, right? If something happens and there's a choking emergency and someone dials 911 and they sit and wait, what do you say to that person as opposed to having one of your devices, multiple, like you said, it's not cost prohibitive, multiple devices around the house or in the school, at the restaurant? The way I look at it, they should be everywhere, right? What's the beauty of having them everywhere versus waiting for an ambulance?
Well, what's horrible and why what you're doing is so important, getting the word out. Right in Connecticut, you had an officer that had a child die.
Correct.
Messed them up so bad, and I certainly totally understand why. But, I really feel for the police officer, first responder, right? Because he's got nothing. Now, we're fortunate that hundreds of police departments, my department here has saved 2 lives already.
Right.
They carry LifeVac in every vehicle. But your point is that waiting point.
Right.
And the poor police officer is in the really awkward position because they're like, do something, right? And he can't without a LifeVac.
Right.
He rush the bus, get the bus here, you know, and they're like, please help us. So that poor officer is kind of in that gray hell, you know. But yeah, you're right. That is what really drove me, was thinking of her in my arms and having done all the protocol and then just going, now what?
Right. It didn't work.
Yeah. So that's why this exists, because I'm selfish to start, but then I said, all right, I'll do it for everyone else.
Do it for everybody. That's beautiful.
And if I could just speak to your question too, because you know, from being on the road as an EMT, you know, whenever we had responding to a choking incident, two things: either the obstruction was out before we got there, or they're in cardiac arrest.
Correct.
And it's that time, because you're, you know, if you're waiting too long, that's going to quickly.
We talk about it.
decrease.
Average response time on a blue sky day.
Right.
8 minutes.
National average.
National average.
Oh, I love that terminology, a blue sky day. That means like the best you could get.
Best case
best
scenario.
I'm stealing that.
Use it.
I'm taking,
Use it.
because then I sound cool, like I know what I'm talking.
Yeah. Best case scenario. All things are great. Bill of the day.
You're still
no traffic,
waiting several minutes.
right?
You know?
No traffic. You're good to go. Average 8 minutes.
Yeah.
But that's, you know, to your point, that's the other thing. When the scariest time for me is when I became aware of all this stuff and I didn't have it.
That's it.
Right.
There was no option.
Once I had this glued together duct tape thing from Home Depot, I took a breath.
Yep.
Until then, I didn't. Because when you realize without air, your brain's going to die in 4 to 8 minutes.
4 to 8 minutes.
And you're gone.
You're gone.
There's you can't sustain life in a airway obstruction. Right? It's got to come out.
Yep.
No matter what you do. Swing them upside down, whatever. Stomp on their chest.
Yeah, it's got to come out.
So that was that realization that help is not going to get here in time. And then the second one was, they may not have any ability to do anything that I didn't already do.
Right.
Right. I took the course. I know how to do it. Infant, good, adult. That guy's going to show up and do the same thing I did.
Right.
So, but that's why my mission on that side is to help our first responders. You know, we donated units. We reduced the price. I don't want an officer to have to go through what that gentleman went through, you know? And in Nassau, I said, my own cops twice. And you know, the feeling I get is that dodged the bullet.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
He saved that life. I didn't just save that life. I saved his brain, his soul.
Absolutely.
That's it.
You know?
Right.
And when I look at the whole saves and I see the 600, well, then I say, that's 2 parents.
Yeah.
That's 12 months. And 4 grandparents. I'm at thousands of people who still have their hearts.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go with it, the math of it. So in your Hall of Saves, it'd be an interesting study. You guys may have already looked at this, but it'd be so interesting to look at post-save, what someone's life was like after. After they were saved, did they go on to have kids? Because you can count all those kids in the Hall of Saves. If they weren't around, they wouldn't be able to have kids. But it would be very interesting to look at your Hall of Saves and find individuals who, after the save, went on to have kids and grandkids. That entire family line is alive because of you and your work.
Well, funny story on when we saved the first child. It was just before his first birthday. And it was a great example because the father had bought it for the daughter for his grandchild. And she said, oh, Dad, you know, you're crazy. Just threw it in the closet. She never touched it, never looked at it. Well, her son choked. And she remembered that grandfather had gotten us that crazy thing. And all my work to make it super simple, she did it, saved the kid.
Boom.
Right? Had never touched it, never seen it.
Right. No training.
So I go out and visit him, and I'm holding him in my arms, right? And I'm looking at his face. And I look over, and there's the 2 parents and the 2 grandparents. It was the strongest feeling of gratitude I ever felt. We were all just grateful, right? The broken car, the tax, nothing mattered. We were all just looking at this little baby and grateful that he was there. And I looked at him and I said, you better grow up to be a good boy. If I saved you and you're not good, this is not going to be good.
Yeah, this is gonna go well. Right.
So I think my speech worked. He's doing well.
Fantastic.
Wow, awesome.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's what we're
Yeah,
going to ask. What other type of feedback have you received about it? And any other stories that, kind of hit you? We were talking about one of the gentlemen that we know in common and how I got in contact with you here in Connecticut. He's now a police officer.
well, that was Godwink, that we had someone that, couldn't be a better example of someone who's trained, knows what to do, and still used the LifeVac to save his child. It was designed for parents like me that don't know anything, but that's proof that even if you do know what you're doing, it may not work.
Right.
And plus, they were great people, and they're willing to share and fight for the message to get out there, because the gratitude of saving their child is like why I did it, right? For others, But the coolest story is our first save. So I go through everything. Took about 5 years, development and testing and everything. We got it out there. And I get a text from the UK. We saved our first life. My daughter happened to be in front of me at the time. Now, she goes to school, so it was early in the morning before school. So right there, we're already in a miracle kind of situation, because she was going to go away. I called the guy up and I say, what happened? What happened? And he said, well, it was an elder care home. The woman choked. They tried everything. Didn't work. The nurse, Jackie, grabbed the LifeVac and used it and saved their life. And I said, wait a second. What was the nurse's name? He says, Jackie. The nurse's name was Jackie. That's the name of my daughter, who I made it for. So the first save ever was made by the same name of a person that I made it for, Jackie and Jackie. They're my two magical Jackies in the UK.
Wow.
And my daughter was in front of me when it happened.
Wow.
Crazy.
Wow.
Right?
That's beautiful.
That still gives me chills, but I had such a feeling of thank you for keeping me going by giving me these little messages to keep going.
Yeah.
Huge. Those odds are ridiculous. There's
huge.
There's only one way that happens.
That's amazing. That's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, cool.
That's so cool.
Wow.
Man,
I love that.
Man, that's great. Arthur, we could talk to you probably all day, and we are planning on doing a little more chatting after, just to talk about some business stuff that we want to do, because we really love your product and your brand, and we want to do everything we can to further it with Instinct Ready. But we just want to say thank you so much for your time and taking time and talking with us today. And I did mention it a little bit, but I wanted to add that I personally know a couple whose small child's life was saved by using this device. So I truly thank you for helping them, and, everyone who has become a capable citizen as a result of your product, right? That's absolutely amazing. And just so our viewers know and our listeners know, we do plan on having them come talk about their personal experience about it.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
How they use the LifeVac rescue device for their child. So everyone, we got a little teaser for you. You can stay tuned. We'll have an update to this story, and we'd love to come visit you guys. See what you do, how you do it, walk around, meet you in person. We'll be real happy about it. But thank you so much for your time and your mission and your product and everything that you represent, Arthur. We really
you guys, you're the epitome of what our first responders are, right? Your heroes there and your heroes here. Your mission is to help people. I dig that, and I totally appreciate it. I appreciate you having me on, and I'm really excited for you guys to come out. You'll freak out. It's awesome.
I can't wait. I can't wait. So is there any other way people can get a hold of you? What do you got? Your website?
The best way is lifevac.net.
Okay.
We're currently getting knocked off by the Chinese all over the place, so be very careful. It's best to come to our site, and that's lifevac.net.
Beautiful.
Awesome.
All right, we'll put some information there in our show notes about, because I think you've got Twitter, you got a Facebook, you got an Instagram as well.
We'll put all that information.
Put all that in there so that our viewers and our listeners can find you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Well, thanks again so much for coming on, and we look forward to talking with you some more.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, guys. Awesome. Great job.
But Wesley, before we conclude this episode of Disaster Class, as always, there's homework.
There is homework, folks. We hope you will like, subscribe, sign up for alerts, leave us a 5-star rating, give us a thumbs up, and really please comment on something that you learned or appreciated from this episode. And there's lots to choose from. Arthur himself, what a charismatic, amazing, intelligent, genuine person he is, his personal mission, his desire to save his daughter, his desire to then share that knowledge and save as many people as he can, and then cataloging each of those saves in the Hall of Saves. There's so many things that we could talk about from this episode. We would love to get your comments on that so we can further the conversation.
Yeah, and as always, if you have a question, you have a preparedness tip, a disaster story to share, send us an email at disasterclass@instinctready.com or drop us a message on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn. And doing so will always give you the chance to be featured on the show and win some cool swag like a Disaster Class t-shirt.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome, everybody. But again, thank you for attending Disaster Class. Stay educated.
Stay prepared.
Stay equipped.
Class dismissed.
All right, guys.